Hello and welcome to the Random Thought Show. My name's Jacob Tober.
And my name's Darren McInnes. On the show we talk about anything and everything in fitness, high performance and health.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Random Thought Show.
Hey guys, how you going?
It's nice to be back in the seat again.
Feels
like with you having Ben on and then Chris on, it feels like I haven't done one in a while.
Right.
I have, but it just feels that way.
Have you been in your break, have you been working on analogies?
We'll see. I don't want to call it either way yet, but probably not.
Because you were on fire last time.
I was. I got in a little bit of a flow there, a little bit of rhythm.
Yeah.
Well, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
So I had an experience that we've had a number of times last week, which is that the guys from Athletes Authority did a cracking post that said exactly what I think about a thing.
Fantastic coaches, fantastic organisation. If you don't, you should check them out.
If you're not following them, you're crazy.
Their Instagram game is very strong.
And I had a chat with Carl because we went and visited them and got to hang out, which was really nice. And they came and visited us last week before last.
Which was awesome.
Which was really nice as well. And
ever so briefly because I had to dash off for the Melbourne airport traffic.
Yeah, I hope they made it. And I had a chat to Carl about it. So, it drives me crazy. You write these posts. I'm like, I should have written that post. Because we agree on so much stuff. And I said to him, it makes me not want to talk about the stuff you've talked about. It's like, no. Like if more of us are spreading the word, that's a win. So in the spirit of that, I'd kind of like to deep dive on what they talked about and get into some of the clever stuff. So the post was this idea of make haste slowly. And
what was the Latin? My Latin's poor.
Yeah, festina lente.
Festina lente.
Yeah.
Make haste slowly.
Yeah, which was an old Roman general's proverb and just really, really clever. And it's something that I got drilled into me pretty much every day of my life as a kid growing up. So I thought I'd touch on sort of why my dad thought that was such a big deal. And I think that it's an interesting story.
Because there's like athletes, I have the same experience whenever I see an Athletes Authority blog or article or photo or video. I'm like, yeah, that's how we do it. Why
didn't we say that?
I'll just add that to my list to do long enough away that people don't remember that I'm just stealing it straight from them. Because it's not stealing, because it's like there are universal truths, and we share a lot of universal truths around the way. Like we have a similar population, similar like young and old athletes. We have a variety of sports. We train and see things in very similar ways. So it's like it's not stealing. It's like we had that same idea. They're just faster with their words.
Yeah, they're very good with their words.
This one in particular is actually quite resonates quite well with you and your background and your father and stuff along those lines. So I think this one deserves extra time on top of that.
Deserves its own thing. Yeah. So I suppose some context. So my dad, and there's a genuine danger of me getting a little emotional here, so I'll try and keep a lid on it. But my dad is a pretty amazing man.
Well, before we do that, let's go to an I Need Pro tip.
Yeah, okay.
You can kind of shake it out a bit.
All right, good.
And then we can get back into on the other side.
All right, sounds good.
Hey guys, it's Darren here for your Iron Age Pro tip. Today we're going to talk about micro progressions. So progressions are really the bedrock of success, and small little slices can make a really big difference. One great way to achieve that with a push-up is to deload a little of the stuff for those that can't do it, and then overload it for those that are really good at it. So these Iron Edge bands are a great way of deloading your push-up slightly. Place yourself arms over the top, and they're resting pretty much where a chest monitor would, for like a heart rate monitor would, just over your rib cage. And then it's just a matter of doing a normal push-up. Don't lead with the head, keep the body in nice alignment. And away you go. And this just gives you that help deep in the range. Super helpful for young athletes that can't complete a normal push-up and would otherwise maybe do one on their knees, which tend not to be as good. And a great way to progress onto doing a real one, because all you can do is over time substitute a heavy band for a medium and then a light, and before you know it, you're doing great quality real push-ups. At the other end of the spectrum, some people are actually too strong for a normal push-up, and we need to find ways to make it harder. Bands come in handy for that also, so you can control the resistance of the band and make them quite a bit harder. So set up, have them wrapped around the palm of your hand through your thumb, under your elbows, body as straight as you can get it. And you get really good resistance at the end as you're trying to lock out. Just a a great quality functional exercise made harder.
All right, you good, Darren?
I'm good-ish. This is dangerous territory for someone as emotional as I can be, because I'm really emotional with positive things. Sad things, I'm actually reasonably stoic.
You're a happy crier.
I'm a happy crier, and I've got to watch out for that. I've got to guard against that. So, yeah, my dad is very much a self-made man in the truest sense of the word. His dad nicked off when he was like 10, and his mum, my grandmother, died when he was 17. So he was a man of the house very early, looking after his little brother, my uncle. And, he was told in year 10 to quit school and that you should just, go become a mechanic was what he was told. And he went on to become a pretty highly regarded international expert on higher education. He has a PhD in organisational sociology and was for a long time the director of the Centre for the Study of Higher Education at Melbourne University, and he's now a private consultant. So he's one of the most success in terms of punching above your weight for winning the lottery. So I think I won the lottery having great parents, and a lot of us do win that lottery. He did not win the lottery, and it was only a really interesting. It's one of those things where life can turn on fascinating little pieces of luck. In the commission flats in Coburg that he grew up in, he happened to be living next to a woman who was an elocution teacher. And so even though this area was and Coburg back then was like rough as guts.
Elocution, we should clarify for a few people, that's a term that doesn't get thrown around a huge amount, especially in sports science.
So elocution is an elocution teacher, which maybe doesn't even exist anymore, was someone who would teach you how to enunciate words, how to speak correctly, and not sound rough as guts.
How to talk good.
Yeah, how to talk good, yeah. And so he and my uncle grew up in this really rough area where everyone talked pretty rough, but because I think my grandmother traded some favours to get the elocution lessons, but they both spoke like the Queen's English. They had really nice speaking voices, and ended up, my uncle went on to become a very successful lawyer and a federal magistrate, and very successful as well. But yeah, so Dad was a self-made man, and he had to find himself the ways to be successful because he didn't have anyone to pass it down to him, and he kind of worked out his kind of code of existing,
his principles.
His principles.
I'm reading Ray Dalio's book Principles right now.
Yeah, okay.
I'm halfway through, and it is a doozy.
It's good. I should read it.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just an aside.
Yeah, so he had to develop his own principles, and one of them was make haste slowly. It was just take your time, get the thing right. It'll take you a little longer to get that thing spot on, but you won't be so error prone. You'll get to better solutions, and you can apply it just across the board. And the others, which I think is interesting, is he would just hammer this home as well. Do it now and do it properly. And I think how you do anything is how you do everything saying is very similar to that. And the other one was what he really hammered me on, because I was a pretty inconsiderate kid. I don't think I was naturally thoughtful of others. I mean, I think most kids, we live in our own worlds a little bit.
Up to 18, even up to 25, you're pretty selfish, I think, yeah.
And he was not having a bar of that. And so I'll never forget, I was running late to meet some friends, and I just hadn't allowed enough time. I've been stuffing around in the morning, and he cornered me, and he was like, "What time are you meeting your friends?" I said, 10 o'clock. He's like, "Well, you're going to be 25 minutes late. You think you're more important than they are?" Like, he hammered me on that. It was a really a powerful lesson. It was the idea of, thinking of others. That got supported by the fact that our school motto at Camberwell High was, tying back to the Latin from before, was Disco Consilia Alis, which means I'm learning to be considerate of others. Which at the time,
even I'm screwing up my face to that.
It's a lame. It's not a good motto.
It sounds like something to be on the school in some form of sitcom.
Yeah, and I mocked it for a long, long time because it seemed like, because I saw other school mottos, and I can't recall any off the top of my head, but I remember thinking that's a good one.
Yeah,
and,
lions involved and things with power and majesty and impressiveness.
Yeah, and I'm like, and we're learning to hold open a door. Like, that's how it felt. But it's funny. In a couple of weeks, I'll be presenting at the Strength Culture
the summit.
The summit.
Congress, sorry.
And I'll be talking about the compounding power of excellence. And a big part of that compounding power is actually tying back to just being nice. I think just being a good human in your space. So as lame as that was, it was actually not a bad thing to have. But anyway, but what I want to talk to you about, and so that those three pieces of advice of make haste slowly, do it now, do it properly, and be considerate of others. You put them together, you've actually got a really good recipe for overall career success. I want to get into the nitty-gritty, though, of the technical side of the benefits of making haste slowly, because there's so much in the training space where people skip steps.
Yeah. We should, I think we should spend a little time, though, first defining this whole idea of make haste slowly, because people will be saying, yeah, but that's a paradox, that's an oxymoron, it's not going to work. What it is about being consistent. It's really what it is saying, just don't stop moving, like the little red train that kept on going. Just keep on going. Every day you eat the elephant one bite at a time kind of thing. And if you rush, you'll get indigestion. You need to take your time and move slowly through these things. So you're making haste in terms of continual progression, but you're doing it meticulously. Because some people are like, well, haste means to rush. No, not to rush. It means to just continue moving forward in this situation, in this context.
Yeah, I think.
And in training, I'll tie my little thing there together, is that when athletes are training, particularly young athletes, 16 to 21, I'd call that, they're in a rush to be, they're in a rush to be 5 years older. They're in a rush to be 12 months stronger and 12 months fitter. It's like, no, you can't rush to do that. You have to pay the price and you have to pay the taxes along the way to get to that point. You can't, I'm a little bit late to the gym, I've started too late, or I'm a little weaker than I should be, or I've had this injury, I want to be fixed tomorrow. It's like, no, this is a 12-month thing, this is an 18-month thing, whatever it might be. So,
and I see it a lot from coaches as well. I think there's and where I see it is this, where things have not been chopped up. Like if you think of a continuum of a, you're trying to progress along a continuum, where things have not been separated in a granular enough sense. So the post from Iron Age was had an athlete returning from
Athletes Authority.
Sorry, I say Iron Age, my bad. From Athletes Authority, had someone returning using the
anti-gravity treadmill. So it was double leg springs on that, returning from a stress reaction.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful little slice up of, okay, let's make this the smallest possible steps that you can make it, so you're not skipping any steps. Whereas a thing that drives us crazy is when people will just massively skip steps, and they'll start at square. For starters, they'll start at square 4 rather than square 1, and then they'll go to square 12 and then square 32, and you're like, you've missed a bunch of steps.
Particularly in rehab, you see it in normal performance training where athletes just go, they see the next fad and they jump on that, then the next one they jump on that, and then they start this new program and they jump on that.
And I think that creates pressure on the coaches, and then the coaches push along as well. Yeah, and I was like that. So have I told you what I was like when I first started coaching in terms of loading on the squat?
We've had it's come up in the past, but it's a good perfect example of that skipping steps. So.
Yeah, so year one, I thought square 1 was squatting 60 kilos. I thought a plate, because if you're not putting a plate on the bar, are you really squatting? So I thought square 1 was 60. And then year 2, I'm like, you know what? Having been, a year's worth of experience coaching, I reckon maybe square 1's 40. Year 3, I was like, I think square 1's actually the bar. I think we'll just start with the bar.
Keep going back and back.
And then I was like, broomstick. And then it was, well, actually, it's do your glutes activate. That's actually square 1.
Can you isolate and activate your glutes and your deep core system, which we've talked about at length, before you even move?
Yeah. And do you have the thoracic mobility? Like, do you have the capacity to get into those positions?
Because the consequences of starting at square 4 when you should be going at square 1 is that you carry compensatory patterns or deficiencies or imbalances along with you. So say you do, I'm just going to jump straight to advanced plyometrics. If you don't have the requisite strength, the movement skill, the coordination, you're going to load your knees incorrectly, you're not going to activate your calf Achilles complex, your foot's not going to be in the right position. All the things that the other athletes spent 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years working on developing to get to that point, you don't have. So, 3 or 4 sessions feels great, but then all of a sudden doesn't feel great, and then you're hurt.
And you're hurt, or you just hit a wall because you just don't have that ability to push through. You can't make those good shapes. it's a bit of a dad's episode, but you've just reminded me too of one of my favourite memories of my late stepfather, Martin, who was a very naturally strong. You know those people who are just naturally
Old man strong.
But he was young man strong as well. Like he was just one of those natural mesomorphs, just naturally ripped and strong, and also a hilarious, very sort of eccentric guy, bit of an artist. But I remember him arguing with me about weight training. He's like, shouldn't you just, because I was telling him about progression. He's like, start at the bottom. Why don't you just go to the gym, go to the top of the rack, try and pick up the heaviest one, and then pick up and work your way backwards. So start at the 150s. Nope, can't do that. And work your way back.
Which is, if you're in a competition to win $1 million on that day, is the better option.
Yeah.
If you're, you're going to save more energy, you're going to very quickly work out where you are. But sport and athletic development isn't a one-day $1 million competition. Yeah. It is your career. It's your life in sport.
And he just couldn't. It was really funny because he was just so perplexed by all the time wasting of building up to it. He was just like, let's just get in and do it. But the problem is that you do that and you might work your way backwards and find that actually you can get a couple of reps out at 70s or whatever. But you're going to have horrible form and you're not going to go anywhere with it. And like that's your best case, is having horrible form and not much to build on.
Yeah, and then the worst case is you have horrible form, you hurt yourself, you dislocate your shoulder, or you just grind your tendons and your joints down, pushing them too early.
So I think the best application there's a whole bunch of different applications, but one of them is just your impact continuum. So it's someone's
plyometric continuum, which other people might call it.
And it's a matter of going back a little step from it. All right, let's say the classic is you've been in a moon boot, and so you've got
fifth metatarsal stress fracture. That's a classic example where you see this.
So you're 6 weeks in the boot. You've come out of the boot.
If you're lucky.
And they come out of the boot, and before anything's happened, people are wanting to do too much. It's like, all right, let's do these calf raises. Like, you know what? Come out of the boot and just walk around for 2 days. That's a workout.
Yeah, because this now ties into that idea of the acute to chronic workload ratio. Because chronically, the last 6 weeks, you have had literally zero load. That's what the moon boot's designed to do. Zero loading on the muscles and bones and tendons and joints of that foot and ankle.
So the bone is now ossified and strong and good, but the surrounding musculature is the weakest it's ever been. Like you have a Mr. Burns foot. You've got no muscles there.
Because when it comes to rehab, the bone is one of the only tissues in the body that needs complete rest to properly heal. Tendons,
and that may even be changing, I suspect.
That may even be changing, exactly. But typically what we're seeing in 2019 is that tendons, muscles, you actually want to load those earlier. Like hamstring rehab, we're seeing people are pushing people to Nordics a lot earlier. So in terms of making haste slowly, it's about balancing not only conservative progression, but also being aggressive where it's appropriate. So what we're learning with soft tissue stuff is you can actually be a little more aggressive on your gym-based exercises early, get that up to speed, and then progress the other stuff. Whereas with bone, you do need that time, or what we think we need is that time initially to heal. And so then from then you need your progressions upward, but that first step there needs to be a lot smaller than people think. People very quickly on bone stuff, they quickly go to step 5.
Yeah.
It's like, out of the boot, we're running.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like step 1. So I think if we're slicing, and I think the goal is, like with a lot of tasks, I think the goal is you actually want to slice the project up into as many small slices as you can, and that way you'll move through it in the smoothest possible way.
Well, that's just classic goal setting psychology. So you have a big goal. I want to play in the AFL. I want to make an Olympics. I want to earn $1 million, whatever it is. And you go, okay, well, you can't just go from $0 to $1 million. You have to earn your first 1,000, earn your first 10,000.
Yeah.
And so it's that idea of breaking it up, breaking your big, audacious 4 or 5 year plan up into single year plans. And then those single year plans you break up into process goals. So, okay, I want to play in the Olympics. All right, well, first of all, I've got to pick a sport. Then I've got to, I picked golf. What does a typical golfer do? They hit probably about 1,000 balls a day plus an hour of putting. Okay, well, I have to be matching that. I have to be working on my S&C to make sure I can tolerate that load, make sure I can do all those things. But you don't just be like, all right, I'm going to play the Olympics. The countdown starts 400 days till Tokyo or 300 days till Tokyo. Let's just go. It's you go, okay, that's the big goal. What do I need to do today to get there? And so you keep your eyes right in front of you on today and tomorrow's goals and today and tomorrow's process to get you to that big goal. It's the same with rehab. Same with all these things. The slowly part, the make haste is the audacious goal. The slowly part is, what do I need to do today to make sure
that
once I
incremental
accumulate
progress.
300 days worth of that work, where am I going to be at? Exactly.
And so if we've cut that into the smallest possible increments, in that fifth Met stressy example, it's walk around and just get reacclimatized to that, get a whole bunch of DOMs in your feet, like really sore feet.
From putting your shoes back on, yep.
And just moving. And then it is a progressive non-impact strength routine where you're actually doing some seated calf, some standard calf. You're just trying to reverse the atrophy. Like, so that muscles have shrunk, let's at least get them up a little bit before we throw impact back into the equation.
Yeah, and you might not get to like 0% asymmetry on a strength test, but get within 15, 20% before you start the other stuff.
And just get it going. Just have this idea of let's get some muscle back and then start to use that muscle. And
you're on a boot for 6 weeks. How long? So you walk around for a couple of days. Calf raises start, say 3 or 4, 5 days later, whatever it might be. How long before you can start any form of ground reaction forces, skipping, stride outs, hopping, anything along those lines?
I don't think it has to be too long. I think a good rule of thumb is roughly however long you are immobilized, that's how long your reload should be. So if you're in the boot 6 weeks, then you actually need a 6-week reload. So it's a 12-week process.
That's before return to play.
Yeah.
At the end of that second 6-week phase. Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a rule of thumb. It buys you time. But I think...
So that means you're probably starting your skipping work in sort of week 2.
Yeah. Because realistically, the first 4 workouts you do, the first 4 strength workouts, you're probably going to get 60% of the way along.
Yeah.
Just getting those, because you're going from nothing to something again.
You lose your tissue quality and strength really quick, but you also gain it back really quick on the other side. Yeah.
And then the last bit will take longer. Like the first 60% will come on pretty quick. Then you'll spend quite a while getting the last 40. But I think you can, and I think probably what I was guilty of when I was younger is once I got over, then starting at step 4. Once I got that,
Once you actually found step 1. Yep.
Yeah. The other thing was thinking of things as one thing can only start when the other finishes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So thinking of them in terms of like critical path blocks. So it's like we have to do all the calf raises, then all the plyometrics, and then all the running.
And there's some cases where that's true, but there's also a lot of cases where you can layer them in. And so you can have, all right,
vertical integration, I'll call that scientifically, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's particularly, if you're good at being granular, like with your impact progressions, if you on your plyo progressions, it can be that, okay, well, let's just start really light eccentric work in late in week 2, but it's going to be really, really light. So even if we don't quite have enough muscle, it's not going to matter that much, and you sort of attack it that way. In terms of chopping that up in the smallest possible parts, I think sub-gravity double leg stuff is so clever. It's so common that we jump straight into, we make this inappropriate jump from no gravity to gravity, and we don't chop gravity up, taking a little bit out of it. So if you have the anti-grav treadmill, that's great, but not all gyms have 80,000.
They are not cheap, those things.
Not cheap.
And they take it, and so price is obviously a big thing, and it's not like we have. This isn't a comment out of the place. Well, we have 8,000 to throw around. We've just chosen not to. But they also take up a large amount of floor space.
You're not going to see them in many gyms. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, because money is one thing, but then space budget is also a factor.
Every centimetre of space we want to get good utility out of. I think there are a number of really good simple ones, and one of them is doing where you've got the band. I'm not sure what you call it. I wish I should have thought of the name before. Where you've got the band over and
so using an Iron Edge power band, like the push-up pro tip from before, using that and then doing your springs with that, helping you up, because as it stretches on the way down, it takes some of your body weight out.
Yeah, so you hook the band over an overhead structure like our Matrix,
a chin-up bar,
whatever, and then you hook it around your armpits. And then you do just really little sub-gravity landing where it's just taking a bit out of the equation. And look, it mightn't actually take that much out of it.
Assisted springs, I suppose you call those? Thinking of names?
Deloaded springs.
Deloaded assisted springs, something along those lines.
Yeah, so you do a bit of that, and it might only be taking a few kilos. Like if I'm doing it my way, 68 kilos, it might only be taking me down to 60 or whatever. But if nothing else, it's reminding you to be gentle when you first start. Like it's actually put a bit of a handbrake, because we do get very excited when we get going.
Yeah, because you go from calf raises and strength work to bounding and skipping and all these fancy. It's like
it's game on.
And it's like, yeah, that's all at 1 or greater times body weight in loading. It's like, well, can't we go some form of plyometric stretch shortening cycle, so to go to rapid contact phase? And yeah, that idea of using, if you had an Ultra G or a band, something to deload you so you can get the speed and the velocity of the contraction without the loading of your entire body weight.
And even if that's just doing the world's tiniest little jumps, that's still a really good way to do it. Just even jumps where like little kind of calf raises but fast. Anything where you're just smoothing out that continuum, I think is super valuable.
Because the stretch shortening cycle is where a lot of the reward is, but also a lot of the risk is when it comes to return. Oh, and in all training, really, to be honest, yeah.
And it's amazing how many people too they make haste fast in that phase, and they create some sort of shin splint. Like the amount of anecdotes I've had of someone who's had a deload and then in the reload they've created some form of tib post irritation.
ACLs.
ACLs.
It's really common that an ACL, the rehab starts and they're going well through the strength phase, and typically running starts somewhere around 12 weeks, and then weeks 16 to 18, they can't run so much because they've got shin splints. This new injury created out of the
And they're battling that for like a year. Whereas if they'd just paid a little more attention to that progression early on and been a little more patient with that first introduction, is they've dialed. I just think it's about dialing up the gravity as slow as, if you can find a way to make it a smaller step, if you can add, do all the steps, I think that's massively beneficial.
Sure, yeah.
So that's a really, and then you would progress to double leg, get really good at full gravity double leg.
Yeah, so sub gravity double leg, full gravity double leg, full gravity double leg with like intent, I suppose you call it, like going for height, going for speed, going for distance, things like that. And then you start again at single leg.
Or maybe even what you can do is you can do sub-gravity single leg a little earlier before the intent one.
Like we were talking about, you can kind of vertically integrate them, so you can be 3 steps of your 10 steps into your double leg progression, and then start step 1 of single leg. So you can be doing a bit of both. Yeah.
And so you get things moving. I love the Athletes Authority line of talking about balancing urgency and diligence. I think that's a really nice way.
Yeah, it's from the same post. It was a ripper.
It was a great post. Yeah, so if you do that, I think you're really well placed. So that's plyos. When you think of that, making haste slowly, where else do you think of it in terms of the areas that are most commonly stuffed up? The people where there's like that, it's like a false economy of time.
Warm up.
Yeah.
Warm up is one, and then big scale is career progression is the other one. I'm 22. I finished my degree. Why am I not a HPM at an AFL football club right now? Why am I not running Liverpool? If only these coaches would understand that I'm the one they've been waiting for. Yeah. I see that. Yeah. You see that less when you're in a company and you're not sort of floating around between organisations, I suppose, because you sort of, when you're at a club or an organisation, you're kind of inside the bubble, if you will, I suppose, of the organisation. So we don't see too much of that. But new interns sort of have that false urgency of, I finished my degree, I haven't got a job, oh no, have I made a mistake? It's like, no, just like...
It'll take time, it'll all unfold.
Get a little better, put just like an artist or someone would put together a body of work and put together a portfolio. They didn't draw all those drawings or make all those graphic designs or all those concepts in one day. Came to them, and then they spent a week iterating and adjusting and making it right, and then they had no more ideas for 2 more months before they had the next one. Like that takes time,
and you won't always even feel the progress. So it was really interesting chatting to Ben because last week, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen. I think it's a really, particularly if you're a young sports science enthusiast of any sort, I think it's a great listen, I reckon. Like he doesn't have a sense of the foundation. He's laying a wonderful, broad foundation that's going to set him up for a brilliant career. But he doesn't even have that sense.
Whereas his words are like, I feel like I'm just running around with my head cut off.
Yeah.
Like I'm just running around kind of
it's sort of drifting.
Doing stuff.
But yeah, it all adds up together. So I think that sense of just being patient with just doing the thing in front of you, doing the next thing, and then progressing through there.
Because if you want to do this career, if you're in an industry and you're passionate, this doesn't just apply to strength and conditioning and sports science. It could be whatever you're in or interested in. If you want to do it and you want to do it right, then taking a little more time to get just the right position in the early days, or putting together that body of work and continuing to apply and getting the practice It's all just reps that are getting you slowly towards the right direction. And, drawing out exactly the map before you start is not how career development works in 2019, in the internet age. It's about creating networks and meeting people and going to events, and all those kind of things come together.
And doing great work.
And of course, all the way along the way, you should be doing great work, of course. But meeting people and being involved and learning on the go and being dynamic and being willing to go, that doesn't seem like the right step, but it's also going to be fun and challenging and new.
And maybe something will come out of it.
Maybe something comes out of it, exactly.
So there's the narrow application of make haste slowly, which is to adequately chop up an athletic development continuum into the smallest possible steps. And I think the feeding in gravity gradually is a great example of that. And then
it also applies to your strength training, your mobility training, everything, movement skill.
And then there's, in a broader sense, there's how you are with your overall. So if that's micro, then the macro is what you talked about in terms of the whole career.
Putting together a body of work, yeah.
Yep. But there's also a midpoint, which is just how you go about doing stuff in a day-to-day sense. And it's one thing that we've worked pretty hard here. I reckon it's worth chatting about that idea of, your pilot program philosophy of how you're actually going to do a thing, see if that works, and only afterwards. I think that's actually a big part of being patient as well, as going, I'll just do a small bit and test it out.
Extrapolate a little more on that. Expand a bit.
So,
because I understand what you mean, but our audience definitely doesn't.
Sorry, everybody. I think this is one of the most important things that you can get, and you only get to it as you get older, I think, is it's that false economy of time. It's that balancing effectiveness versus efficiency. So you want to be everyone's in a hurry that you want to get stuff done, but you need to make sure that you're actually balanced out enough that what you're doing is you're not spending 6 hours doing the thing wrong. So the classic mistake, and I've made it, you've made it, all of our coaches here have made it, is we decide we want a certain thing. We want to get a thing done, and we've got to get 30 of them done. So we go out and we do 30, and then someone else comes along and they see one of them and they go, well, that actually doesn't make sense to me because that needs to be in that spot. And then you've got to go redo
all 30.
Whereas the brilliant way is you spend the least amount of time to get a sort of minimum viable product of that thing for one of its things.
Build a tester,
build a pilot, and then get feedback, get it right, and then you can just replicate the pilot. And that trips people up again and again and again, doesn't it? Because we have that urge to just get the thing done.
It's falsely misquoted to, I think, Abe Lincoln.
Is it?
If I had 8 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 7 sharpening my axe.
Yeah.
The idea of, the act of chopping down the tree can only be achieved with a sharp axe. So you might as well have the sharpest axe possible. So in this case, you might as well make that pilot, like instead of going back and making 30 iterations or sometimes 300
or one iteration 30 times, which is the nightmare.
So that would better way of phrasing it. It's better to get that first one perfect and spend, because like the first one of something you make will take 10 times as long as the next 100 because you were getting that first one just right. And once it's just right, then you can hit Command D, duplicate, and away you go. But so often people are just like, I'm still on the first one, I'm not making progress. It's like, no, this is like every minute you spend on that first one makes the rest of the process easier. Yeah. And the same when you're setting up a system for doing something. So you could apply to something where you're literally just duplicating across athletes' programs or across your population or whatever it might be. But also it applies to when you're building a system to run a thing. It's like, okay, I'm doing this thing, writing programs is a classic example that we have in our industry. I'm writing programs, I have to write a lot of them. What I should do is I should build a system to write those programs that makes it more efficient every time I do it. And so you might spend a year building that system. Or in our case, you might spend 5 years building that system. But as you're building that system, once that system is up and running or even partially up and running, it's making every program you write from that point onwards a little easier, a little more efficient, and a little more effective as well because you build into the system points where you can't fail. So you build the system where it's like, okay, common mistake is doing this. Well, I'll build a rule or a constraint into the system that those things can't happen. That error of you can't do plyometrics at the end of a workout. So, okay, the plyometric section is on its own. It's got a dedicated space and it's at the top of the workout. Solved.
Yeah.
And then every time you or one of your coaches or one of your team write a program in the future, they can't make that mistake because you've fitted something, you made it pokey for your team. I think that's so effective and so powerful.
For those that don't remember Pokeyoki, because we might not have talked about that for a couple of episodes.
A couple ago, but yeah.
So Pokeyoki is the Japanese, it's one of my favorite terms. I got it from my wife who works in automotive engineering. And it's the Japanese term for when it's next level idiot proofing. So if you've got a panel that goes into the right-hand side of the car, you actually fit a nodule on it that prevents you from accidentally putting it on the left. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, so systemizing your pokeyoki is one of the best things, one of the best time spends you can do in any industry, I think, to make things idiot-proof for yourself so that in the future you can come back, you're a little tighter, you're a little stressed, you've forgotten how this works, and you can still do a good job of it, or so that someone else in your team who didn't build the system can operate the system.
So yeah, it's a pretty powerful habit. So I think applying that lens with everything makes everything faster. You'll get to where you want to. Your initial progress will be a little bit slower, but you'll end up much further along.
I feel like English has done a poor job of creating a word for that, that festina lente.
Yeah.
Because faster instantly makes people think, I have to type quicker or I have to make the 30 really quickly.
No.
It's something about, it's like some combination of not urgent, but meticulous and thorough and fast. See what I mean? There's no word.
I bet there's if we've got any listeners that are fluent in German, the Germans have the best words. They
just smash them all together and make it. It's like 3 syllables and you've got a whole sentence.
Yeah, like Schadenfreude, which is the
laughing at others' expense.
Yeah, the joy of someone else's misery. I'm like that's a long word. Yeah. I bet they've got a word for it. I don't reckon there's any real. Almost everything we do is a reference for this because that's kind of a thing we've built everything around. So there's no particular link.
Yeah, it's just the whole, I suppose, to phrase things another way, it's about being meta. It's about taking a step back from the doing to make the processes behind the doing more efficient but also not just efficient, more effective as well.
Let's round it out with one of our favourite in-house sayings: freezing your salad.
Nice.
So I think the way to look at that is that your effectiveness is, are you getting the thing you want to get out of doing the thing, and efficiency is just how easy are you making it to do the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my brother Tommy, who is brilliant and is one of the best people for efficiency and systematic. He's got a military background.
Great systems thinker.
Even simple things like these chairs we're looking at. I'm looking at the chairs here. Do you remember the production line that Tommy set up to make the chairs?
No, I don't think I was involved in that production line.
Maybe you're off doing something
somehow
else.
Missed that,
He had this whole production line to make it the quickest possible to set up the chairs. And he built all sorts of wonderful efficiencies into the business. But he's also a bit of an efficiency nut. And he came in one day and he'd been doing meal prep where, you get all your meals on the Sunday and get them all done. And part of his meal prep, he'd frozen his salads. It's like, I've done my week salads.
A bunch of quinoa and spinach and kale and capsicum salads.
I'll freeze them. And he came in and we gave him so much, and because he's eating it and he clearly knew he'd made a mistake. Like he was eating, he was like, oh.
Because an effective salad is crunchy and fresh and tangy and delicious and all those good things.
All the things you want out of a salad. An efficient salad is one you just take out of the freezer and voila.
But it looks like a slurry.
And so you in the pursuit of efficiency, you end up actually killing the benefit out of the thing. And one of our coaches at the time was like, I see what you've done there. You've frozen your salad, Tommy. And it became a big joke, but it's actually been a really nice touch point for us in the sense of when we're doing a thing, it's always, yes, it's great that we have a system here, but let's be careful we're not freezing our salad. Let's be careful we're not
taking the quality out of the product.
Yeah. So don't freeze your salad, people. I think that's a good closer.
I think we'll leave it there. That's nice.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next week. And before you go, hear from our alumni about the online mentorship.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it. And coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years. So it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to, train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying, I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, oh, how does that tie into everything? It's something that practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
Semester 3 of the mentorship is now open. Apply at coreadvantage.training/mentorship.